I got a dry throat. I'm a little gravelly. Just a little gravelly.
Are you really?
Yeah. I don't know why. It's hot up here.
What does that mean?
It's like when your voice kind of
hot up there. Don't even.
It is. I mean, it's like 85 outside, Steven.
It's 104 here.
Yeah, no, you're just making that up. The temperatures don't even go that high.
I'm not making it up.
It's not true.
They do.
It's not true.
It's 100%.
No, you just said 104, not 100%. Now you're all over. You can't even keep your lies straight about the temperature.
Percentage isn't the same as Fahrenheit. It's
100%. It's all for them science guys to work out. Talking about science. Are you familiar with the concept of continental drift, Stephen?
We didn't do our count in.
We didn't do our count in. Should we count in now?
No, it's fine.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Continental drift.
Welcome to PnS. Waste your time.
Let's do a boop together.
That's
for
it.
Me to synchronize.
A boop? All right.
Perfect. Continental drift, Stephen.
I know what it is. But tell everybody else.
Is the process by which the land masses of the Earth move around.
Yeah, I fucks with Pangea.
Planet is made up of different layers.
Mm-hmm.
The top one that we see, the crust, is the land masses upon which we watch, which we walk.
Mm-hmm.
Those land masses are slowly shifting because beneath them are tectonic plates, which have different densities, different fracture points, and they're moving, right? Continental drift, the observed scientific phenomenon of those crusts moving.
Mm-hmm.
Those crusts move, but they move on a normal generational, like human generational time scale. It's barely perceptible. It's observable, but it's barely perceptible.
Like millions of years, yeah.
So exactly. Across hundreds of thousands, millions, and billions of years, you can really see it. And I mean, to be fair, if you went back to the year 0, about 2,000 years ago, the average at the continents move are about 1 centimeter a year. So it would be in the nature of a couple hundred meters, something like that they would move, which is not nothing. Like if you fast forwarded in an instant 2,000 years, you'd notice the change in position. But measured anything sub that, it's really, really not that noticeable.
Except in Kenya.
The Rift Valley. A man of science.
Mm-hmm.
The reason
Is that what you were going with? Did I just spoil it?
No. I think that was great color commentary to what I was talking about.
Can you fit these balls in your mouth?
I went and watched the new Indiana Jones movie, and I really liked it.
This is a spoiler warning for the following movie.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
If worried about the spoilers, skip ahead to the time.
17 minutes and 42 seconds.
Thank you.
And I want to say that. I want to say that because in the way you and I talk about movies, I think people get the idea that we don't like the movie based on what we say about them later in detail. But I did really like the movie.
No, not at all. We just like to tear them apart. No, here's a disclaimer right now, because I'm going to get into this too.
Yeah, here's a.
We both loved the movie.
That's my disclaimer sound.
Yeah, we absolutely loved the movie Indiana Jones, and we love Harrison Ford, and I enjoyed it.
That's my opinion!
Perfect.
However, all right.
Overall, the movie is pretty good. I liked it a whole lot. There's this one part of the movie where you've kind of reached this interesting climax. I'll try not to share too many details, but it involves time travel. And it involves hitting a precise set of coordinates in the modern day, or, modern-ish day, to then time travel. Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, spits out the concept of continental drift to derail the bad guy's plans who's trying to hit those coordinates in order to time travel. Okay?
Oh, I forgot about this part. Okay, yeah. Now I know where you're going with this. This is a long setup. I like it. Keep it up. Keep going.
In short, he throws out continental drift. He's saying, what you're trying to do is misguided. You're not going to do it right because of continental drift. And then the bad guy who's, an archaeologist, doctor who's supposed to be really smart, albeit evil, is derailed by this. Okay? My problem is, much like what we just discussed, the concept of continental drift is so minimal year by year, even 2,000 years, like what you're talking about is positional, right? What Indiana Jones throws out there is the idea that these coordinates and this whole plan is unreliable because the positioning might have changed on the coordinates, but it makes no difference because you're about to jump through a portal which exists differently in different time spaces. You get what I'm saying? Like, it has...
I 100%... Now,
throws me off. It threw me off in the theater. It threw me off just a little bit because...
Here's what I think happened. I think... Again, great movie. I'm not bashing the movie. I think they didn't talk to a scientist. And I think what they were trying to portray was the idea that the stars would not be in the same spots because of planet shift, not continental drift. And so I think they used the wrong word and nobody corrected them the entire time because it just sounds
No,
right.
I don't disagree with that.
But I think what they were trying to say was like, the Earth is not in the same position as it was those thousands of years ago.
Well, that's the weird thing, because
like
you and I hit on the same thing, which is logical. There's some sort of positional difference Indiana Jones is throwing out there to describe, but the position makes no difference because they're fucking time traveling. In fact, Indiana Jones himself says it. He says, because of continental drift, you're going to end up in the wrong time zone or like the wrong destination here. And I'm like, how?
Though?
You're describing a shift in position of the Earth, of the continents, things like that.
Well, that's the even weirder thing, right? Because if you're time traveling, the planet wouldn't even be in the same place.
No, it's not necessarily in the same spot. Exactly.
In the universe. So if you are time traveling, you would, in theory, be shot in space. You would have just appeared in space, had no oxygen, and and been destroyed. I mean, I think that's what they were trying to say, but they just didn't quite do it
Now,
right.
I want you to follow me for a second.
All right,
because I think you and I hit on the same thing. Because when you're in the movie theater and you hear him say that, you and I had the similar reaction. He's describing something which can't really be logically connected, right?
All right.
I want to jump back to a different Harrison Ford role, which also had a connection to George Lucas.
All right.
And that's Han Solo. Specifically, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The first movie that came out, the fourth in the series.
Right.
You remember that one, Steve?
Yeah,
Yeah, you do. You fucking liar.
I remember it.
I love it.
I thought that was going to be shorter.
No, it can be as long as you want. No. I think the best part about some of these sound effects is you can stop them whenever you want. So you can do like a whole one. Like that, or you could just be like,
yeah, I like that a lot.
And it kind of triggers the same emotion.
I agree.
When you first meet,
bitch.
When you first meet Han Solo in Episode 4, A New Hope.
Are you talking pre-edits?
He's effectively pre-edits. I usually refer to the remastered VHS, which is where I got mostly familiar with the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything's changed since then, I don't know. I can't.
Did Han still shoot first? That's the big question.
I believe Han shot first, however they edited it.
Yeah, they edited it where he does like the awkward...
What you saw was a flashback or a flash forward, something like that.
Spoilers.
When you meet Han Solo in the cantina at Mos Eisley, he's kind of in a tight position. He owes a lot of money to Jabba the Hutt, who literally just throws people into a pit with kind of like this desert lizard that eats them.
It's actually from Dathomir. It's like exotic.
Dathomir?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
all the same.
Planet of the Night
evil,
Sisters.
not evil. Carnivorous, dangerous lizard guy gets eats people because the slug crime boss.
Yeah,
Han Solo's in a tough spot. Suddenly, these two people come to him, an old man and a kid, who are looking for like a suspicious, no questions asked off-world transit.
Right.
And I believe Han Solo sees an opportunity. What he wants to do is convince them to pay him way too much to do something that's relatively minor in his playbook. And seeing the opportunity, he tries to sell them on it. And in fact, what he tells them is that his ship, the Millennium Falcon, has done the Kessel run in a certain number of parsecs. And the way he describes it, as you'll remember, is like that's a really fast amount of time. The ship's incredibly quick. It did this run in so many parsecs. Problem is, parsec is a unit of distance. So how are you able to shorten the distance between two physical locations?
Okay,
and what I've always bought into...
Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I want to hear.
I'll over-explain my point.
All right.
What I believe is something that's proliferated, I think, on the internet a little bit. So it's not an original thought, but I believe it. Han Solo in a tight position, seeing two naive-ass people that he believes don't really know shit. He just spins up some fucking story. He makes up fucking bullshit about his ship. He uses fancy words to try and convince him that that's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he uses this word parsec. He goes, you guys aren't going to know what a parsec is. This fucking, man who's been living in the desert, probably never went anywhere, and this kid doesn't know shit.
Right.
You're not going to know what I'm talking about. And I believe that Obi-Wan specifically sees right through it. But I believe Han Solo tries it on him because he sits down here and he says, well, I need the quick cash. And these guys seem like an easy mark. So I'll stop there.
Okay.
Stop there for now.
So
what do you think?
From what
Are you
I
with me?
understand, yes, I totally get that. From what I understand from Star Wars nerd shit, so in real life, a parsec is a unit of distance equal to 3 point, it's been a while, 3 point something light years, right? And so when you do parsec travel, I think hyperspace is the idea of, I could be wrong, and I'm sorry in advance for all the bigger Star Wars nerds than I am, but hyperspace bends time. So so the idea is that
it's a dimension outside real space.
So it's able to, because of its hyperdrive and the way he maneuvers, he's able to kind of cut certain distances.
Oh, okay.
Hence he made it in this many parsecs, because the Kessel Run is a certain run for smugglers, and he was able to cut off time by doing something special. Right.
And the ship, I mean, he attributes it to, so I'm with that. I had never really heard that interpretation before. I buy it. I guess I would still fall on the idea that either way, it's like this desert old man hermit and this young kid coming to you. He asks him, even Luke calls it out, saying like you could buy your own ship for the amount of money that Han wants to fly them somewhere, right?
Yeah.
To fly them to Alderaan.
And he's like, who would fly it, kid?
And so I think either way, because I can't honestly believe Han Solo in that moment was sitting there going like, oh, this old man and this kid know a lot about spaceships. So he's just going to throw out whatever bullshit makes him seem like the best at that moment and just go for it. So here's my thing. I think my interpretation of parsec, which I'll stick with strictly, if nothing more than the sake of argument.
Okay.
When Indiana Jones starts spouting about Continental Drift, it's the same as Han Solo in that moment spouting about parsecs. The fucker is in a tight spot. He's shot. He's like dying. I don't really understand how he survived, but he was shot and like dying, bleeding out. He's in this fucking plane about to hit this coordinate, this weird Geller field in space. Or in the sky. And suddenly, if I were Indiana Jones, a reasonable person, I would go, oh shit, it looks like the bad guy was right and he's about to succeed. I'm going to try and derail him with whatever I can think of. And the thing, which quite astutely came up in his head, was Continental Drift. You haven't accounted for Continental Drift. It's bluffing. Yeah. He's fucking bluffing to him and saying, I know you haven't thought about this, or at least I think you haven't thought about this. So let me throw it out there and see if that panics you enough. And it kind of works. Because the bad guy does try to turn the fucking plane around at that moment. He's just too late to do anything about it. But I wanted to point that out. Because I think I almost want to believe, and I don't know if there's a way to research it, I almost want to believe that the writers, George Lucas, who was an executive producer, they might have thrown it in on both characters as an Easter egg. Kind of pick out the dumb shit that was in there. You could blame on sloppy writing, or you could blame on really advanced character development.
I think that's giving them way too much credit. It is a Star Wars, or it's an Indiana Jones film. It's a Star Wars film. There's no half that knowledge. Even the parsec crap is all retroactive, right? I mean, 100%. This is all Star Wars nerds that went online, including me, who had to look up science to make it work. It was never like George Lucas is a fantasy writer. He's not a scientist.
Right. And, so he just made something up. It made sense.
Now, speaking of Indiana Jones, I know that was the biggest bother to you. My biggest bother with the movie happened way earlier.
Yeah, what happened?
That was when we get to see one of my favorite characters, Sala. And he goes through all this stuff, and they get to the airport.
John Rhys Davies, easily one of my favorite actors.
100%. And he goes to the airport with it. And he goes, "Oh, Indy, I got 2 tickets. I'm gonna come with you for one last adventure."
Yep, I got my passport.
And he's like, "Nah." That's it.
I was triggered by that too. The first thing is I think there's some setup here that you could throw in to make it even worse, pull at your heartstrings. Sala explains earlier, like minutes before, when he's reintroduced.
Yeah.
Indy helped him and his family, including like his grandchildren, get out of Egypt during the Suez Crisis because they had nowhere else to go. There was a war going on. I won't go into the Suez Crisis, but there was combat going on. And so he's in a spot of bother. Indy helps him out, gets him into an apartment in New York somewhere. It's crowded with like 3 generations of Sala's family. And then Indy's going to be like, no, you can't come. And what's worse about it is they then cut to Indy on a plane, and he's sitting in a plane. The seat next to him's empty.
I know, right? Like, well, because he bought it. Because
No,
Sala bought the ticket.
You can't come.
Yeah, he's like, nah, you're good. You go ahead and stay, Sala. Even they just drove me to the airport and got these tickets for me and made all this happen. Like, you just stay.
I was a little shook by it because pulling all these characters back is supposed to kind of be nostalgic and pull at your heartstrings a little bit. And then he says, it's cheap emotionality, I suppose, is what I'll blame it on. Like, no, Sala, you can't go, kind of thing. And it's just like, but why? What
a
like, you
different
have this
movie
guy
that
willing
would
to
have
help you. Why not? Yeah.
You know, we could have had 2 old people romping through the streets of was it Marrakesh? I don't think that's right. That word just came to my head.
Marrakesh. No, yeah, you're right. Marrakesh.
And so you have these 2 guys just romping around trying to relive their old days. That would have been such a different.
It would have been different. They had these. They had those whole car chase scenes in Morocco, which I thought were cool, but that could have been Sala. Instead of, the lady and the kid, or just the lady, Indy, or throw the kid in there, but Sala could have been a part of that easily. I don't think there wasn't anything that happened in the rest of the movie I don't think Sala could have played a part in, at least minorly. But either way, top to bottom, I think it was a pretty good movie. The only thing I worry about in all these popular ass movies that they do new editions of,
right,
is they leave them slightly open at the end, and I'm just like, please don't do another one. Please.
I think, and
please just let it die.
I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like they were trying to set up the girl and the kid.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Which is fine. I actually like the kid. I wasn't a big fan of the female actress. Her character didn't do it for me.
Bro, I didn't hate the actress. I was okay with her character. She seemed a little cheap because she just talked about nothing but money. But
yeah.
Weird, and I don't know if it's an age thing, but her and Harrison Ford just didn't really seem to mix as well as it gets implied.
Yeah, no, I didn't see any click there.
Yeah.
It was strange.
But overall, good movie. Totally worth watching.
100%. Oh, here we go. Ready for transition?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
All right, 2 other things that don't go well, like
stroking my dick.
like Indiana Jones and that woman. I was going around town, and I don't know if maybe I'm crazy. I've eaten a little pho, but not a lot. But we have a restaurant in town that has crawfish and pho. That seems really out there, though, right? Or is crawfish something you put in pho?
You're talking about like that Cajun style crawfish, boil in a bag spices.
I'm assuming. I can't think of where else crawfish are from.
It's sort of interesting. No, you're dead on. Crawfish. I think there's like crawfish type creatures in like Indochina, or I should say, I think that's Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos.
Right.
But weirdly enough, the Vietnamese, it's called Viet Cajun pretty much everywhere you go.
Oh, really?
Is that boil in a bag Cajun food? Yeah, it seems like it really picked up with the Vietnamese people. That became Viet Cajun. But I'm with you. I've never seen a place that did pho and Viet Cajun, though they could both be sort of Vietnamamese. That's interesting.
That makes a little more sense. Maybe I'll need to go in there now, but I'm not a big crawfish.
Yeah. Well, I definitely like pho, and I'm into Viet Cajun. I don't think I would ever get them together. I don't think I would be in the mood for one and want the other too.
So what's the big difference between Viet Cajun and Cajun? Just because it was Cajun food kind of adapted by the Vietnamese?
I want to say yes. I don't know the nuances of Cajuns, and I don't want emails and phone calls, which we're just inundated by, Steve.
I know.
I assume that's just why it is, because it was very much adopted by the Vietnamese, but I would call it the same as Cajun. Don't know.
Makes sense to me. Interesting.
Yeah. Did you end up eating there? Did you end up trying anything there?
No.
You stayed away. You were scared. You were like, crawfish. I'm terrified.
I wouldn't say scared. I just wasn't interested. Yeah.
Well, they are kind of scary little fucks when you think about it.
What? How?
They're aggressive. They pinch.
I don't think you should talk about the Vietnamese that way.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you've been to the dentist?
Too long. I'm generally okay with how my teeth are, but I also avoid the dentist.
Why? Just calling you out.
I just don't like it. It's expensive. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like somehow it's worse than going to a doctor, if you ask me.
Yeah, I get that.
Because if I go to the doctor, the doctor says like, "Oh, you're overweight, you're fat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I've been that way." But you can kind of lie about it. Been like, "Nah, I'm on the downswing. I've been dieting." And then the doctor gives you like that sort of nod of approval that's probably somewhat disbelieving, but it's also like, "I don't care. You can say whatever you want."
Right.
As soon as you open your mouth at the dentist and they say, "Oh, you brushing twice a day, flossing twice a day, mouthwash,
you fucking know
all this sort of shit," and you'd be like, "Absolutely, I take care of my teeth." They'll look at one tooth and be like, "You're a fucking liar."
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
They
I don't
now,
like
that being said,
too introspective.
I go every 6 months because
Okay.
I
Good for you. Honestly, you should.
I have pretty good insurance, but so I just started doing this again like half a year ago. So 6 months ago, I started this routine again.
Sure.
And
so your second time around then.
Yeah. I feel like a little kid coming out there though, man. Like it felt great because what happened is I go in there. First off, X-rays are the fucking worst for teeth. I don't know what it is, but they have you bite on this thing, and it just rips the shit out of I have a tiny mouth.
Yep.
It rips the shit out of your gums, and I'm like tearing up because it just hits that nerve. And it's always like this.
It's uncomfortable at best.
Yeah. And she's always like, "Oh, it's almost over." And I'm like, "Bitch, it hurts. Help. This is the worst." And then you look at your x-rays because, they have the computer right there. And I don't know about you, but all I'm doing the entire time is staring at it, being like, "Are those cavities? What do cavities look like?" I've never had a cavity, so I have no idea. But every time I look at the x-rays,
You've never had a cavity. Wow.
No, never had a cavity. And so I'm looking at the x-rays, and I just assume everything I see, cavity. Gotta be a fucking cat. This is the day.
Cavity.
This is the time.
Oh yeah, that looks terrible.
I'm gonna go in there. We're gonna have the worst teeth ever, right? So then we do that, and I go in, and it's really just a consultation day because I have a hygienist and a dentist, and they never line up on the same day. So I go in there, and he checks on my teeth, and he claps his hands together. And that means one of two things: either like, oh, he's about to make a lot of money on me because there's a lot wrong. I go, well, here we go.
Dollar signs in the eyes. Let's go.
Or it means, there's not really much going on. So I get to sweat for a couple more seconds, right? Then he says this thing that just made me feel like I just got flowers from a date. Like just this, thank you. The vapors. He looks at me and he goes, he's like, "I've been on vacation for a week and today's been a really rough day." And I'm like, "Uh-oh." And he goes, "Thank you for being an easy patient. Your teeth are fine." I'm like, "Oh, I won the lottery. This is great." He goes, "Yeah,
Jesus Christ."
I know. He's like, "No, we could do whitening if you want,
unloading, man.
But otherwise," he's like, "Thank God. Like I've been doing cavities all freaking day, and like it's nice to see somebody with a clean mouth where I don't have to say like, please start flossing." He's like,
Jesus Christ. Okay.
So he's like,
I'm never going again, man. If that's really what they think, I'm not fucking going.
He was like unloading on me, and I'm like, "Oh, thank you, bud." And I'm just sitting here thinking like,
this emotional dump, starts crying, sits next to you.
So we had
comes in for a hug.
We had like 20 minutes of this, and he's like, "All right, well, you're good to go. I'll see you in 6 months." I'm like, "All right, thanks." I just walk out, big old smile on my face. You go through the waiting room, you see people like holding their mouth in pain. Because that's the other thing. They all like look at me when I came in. They're like, "So anything wrong?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Well, why are you here?" Because you're supposed to get a checkup. Like it's part of my insurance. You can come in every 6 months, and as long as you're on that plan, you never have to pay.
Yeah. So you get like the 2 cleanings or something a year normally. No, I hear you.
Yeah, I get 2 cleanings a year from the hygienist, and I get 2 checkups with the dentist.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a positive outcome. I don't think I've ever gone to the dentist where it's been bad. I've had like maybe 1 or 2 cavities in my life, but years and years ago. But
it's just the anxiety,
I've been
right?
Happy with my teeth. Yeah, it's the anxiety. It's the fact that you're laid bare. It's like being butt naked in front of someone that's supposed to sit there and like.
You ever get nightmares about your teeth?
Yeah, like the crunching down on your teeth or pulling them out, like the loose teeth one.
Yes, I get that all the time. That my teeth are falling out. Like constantly, I feel like they're gonna fall out.
When I was still in school, I got it a bunch. And it has to do with confidence. I don't know who's out there interpreting dreams for science, but somebody says
I think it's therapist,
it's
right?
an indicator that you're introspective or something. Yeah.
My therapist is like, well, how often? I'm like, every other night. And she goes, ooh. And she starts writing. I'm like, what does that mean? Aren't you supposed to tell me, not just let me figure this out? She goes,
red flag, man. But you know what? At least you got 20 minutes of praise from the dentist, so the 20 minutes of dishing on from your therapist. Because see, when I imagine the hand clapping, that's really dangerous. Is if you're in with the therapist and they clap their hands and they lean forward and been like, "All right, Peter, we're going to talk about something." I've been like, "I'm fucked up.
Yep.
Something is wrong."
All right, bud. So we're gonna go ahead and reschedule you for next week. Oh no, that's not a checkup anymore. That's a come back. We're gonna do some work. That's we gotta order tools from Amazon to get in that mouth.
Yeah, I need a worksheet for this.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, because the weird thing about me is when I've gone to therapy, which I recommend to literally everyone.
100%.
But I always thought of therapy as like I'm usually very bad about talking about my feelings, and it's much easier for me to emotionally dump on someone I pay and that professionally does it than trying to do it on other people. So I've always gotten benefits out of it. But even though I'm laying myself fucking bare generally for my therapist and I'm comfortable with it, I can't stand it at the dentist. But the other reason I don't like the dentist is Superfloss.
I like Superfloss.
I hate Superfloss.
It hurts a little bit.
Literally,
but
they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, well, you're not flossing regularly." And I've been like, even if I was, I'm using like the 1 millimeter. They've got the 10 mil. It's flat like a spaghetti noodle. They're like going straight down to the base of your teeth and going at it. And I get it. That's what you got to do. But no normal person does that to themselves. And then so it's like you're just set up for failure, man. You're just set up for failure.
So my hygienist told me, because I complained like years ago when I was going again. When I was married, I went to the dentist a lot more. I don't know why. I think it's just getting out of the house. But
sure,
I would, I talked to the hygienist and said, look, I want to floss. I do. I promise you. I just can't get my hands back there. I'm like, you could barely get your hands back in the back of my mouth. I got a tiny ass mouth for a big old head. I'm like, what could I do? And that's when she told me, it's like 5 years ago. She told me about the water pick, right?
Right.
And so the minute I switched to that, it's been great. Now they have told me you should do both, but I'm like, I did this so I don't have to do both.
Yeah.
And because that
it's
dentist
funny you say that, because I got a water pick for the same reason.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to use. I think it's more comfortable. But they told my wife when she was at the dentist, "Oh, you should use both." And I'm like, "Fuck no."
Yeah, no.
I got the water pick because I hated flossing.
100%. I love the water pick. I'll put that thing up to level 10 and hurt myself.
Yeah. I'm okay with the pressure. That's the idea.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It's the using the rope to do it myself. For some reason, that's just I can't.
Yeah.
I always thought therapy as you're paying someone to really talk to yourself and not be crazy about it. You know what I mean? Like you're bouncing off those ideas. There's a neutral party for the most part, and you can't. Like a good therapist doesn't ever tell you what to do, right? They just kind of say, "Well, what do you think you should do? What do you want to do?"
Yeah,
there's a
lot of redirection,
but it works. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the best advice I ever got from a therapist was you need to kind of find the headspace, whether it's delusional or not, where it's non-destructive or destructive to others, but it makes you feel good. And sometimes having that validation is nice, because I'll beat up on myself and I'll say, well, I can't think the opposite way because it seems unreasonable. But the therapist would be like, what's the harm of being a little unreasonable? What's the harm of doing that? But there is a whole lot of, well, what would make you feel better?
Yeah.
Well, this. Okay. $500.
That's the worst part is the money. I had to stop going over COVID because I couldn't do it online. It defeated the purpose. Like I'm not going to talk. I can't talk in front of a computer when there's people that I'm probably talking about in the house. So I just didn't feel comfortable with that. And I never went back. I probably need to go back. It's just so pricey. Insurance just doesn't cover that much.
Yeah, it's funny because right at the beginning of COVID, I picked it up again because like I was 9 to 5 committed to basically being in office. So all that disruption to my life ended up kind of affecting my mental health. But it didn't last long, mostly because it was all video conference, and for some reason I just didn't feel like it was working. It was the same with my guitar lessons. I couldn't carry them online long term. It just didn't seem like I was getting as much out of it.
Right.
But the other thing was run counseling. And it turned out they had matched me up with someone who was really into like faith-based therapy and was also into like run counseling, where like you run and do counseling. And, you know, she was, I mean, with good intentions, but she was saying like, yeah, normally I do like, you know, like at least walk therapy. Like we'll go somewhere and we'll walk and we'll talk through shit. And I was just like, we can't fucking go outside, lady. Like, it doesn't help me at all. But never mind. I'm definitely not going to be jogging around trying to tell my problems. I don't want to knock it. Maybe it works for some people. I don't want to turn anybody off of it. But I remember those words coming out of her mouth and be like, I couldn't think of a worse fucking thing for me right now.
Right. I could see the benefit of walk therapy, but again, if you're not able to go out and walk, it defeats the purpose.
Yep. I like the idea. I don't know. I also would be like, I'm definitely not walking around in public airing my anxieties and shit like that.
Good point.
Like that's not going to fucking happen. Yeah. And if it different circumstances, it's whatever. But I guess I like kind of private one-on-one conversations, which was very much not possible at the time. But it is interesting. I want to give a shout out to somebody new this week, Steven.
Oh.
I can't because Adrian got it again. So hey, Adrian, shout out to you. There's some honorable mentions. Yeah. There's some honorable mentions. Okay. Obviously, we know some people, some good friends who are willing to lie to our faces and say that this podcast really makes them laugh and happy and things like that. We know that's just not possible. That's not what we're trying to do.
I do love those people. I love you all.
So I want to say hi to those people. That's Alex.
Hey.
And Keith.
Yo.
I'm giving them a little bit more time. I'm pausing so that people can really enumerate on their names. Oh, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying more names. Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. You got it. Mm-hmm. And the last one is sort of a new one for this week, I think.
Oh, we got a new guy. Or a new girl.
And I'll be honest. I'm a little offended by this one. Because they asked for it.
I thought they were supposed to. Didn't we ask them to ask for it?
I just find it so disgusting that some people would try to wiggle their way to internet fame any way they could. Whether it's podcasting, videography, streaming, anything like that. I absolutely abhor it. I would never do anything like that. Make sure you like and subscribe. But I will say hello. A slightly respectful but distant hello to our friend in Colorado, Andrew.
Hi, Drew. Drew. Hello.
Be careful what you wish for, motherfucker.
And my name is Steve.
And my name is Pete. And this was...
Let it happen.
Take your time.
Dang it!
PnS Waste Your Time is a production of Pete and Steve. All characters and events in the show are entirely fictional, and any resemblance to any real people are entirely coincidental.
Thanks for listening.